coronavirus is a thing. I know that people are going through a lot right now. It is a really tough and trying time. I live in New York City and pretty much everybody right now is in self-quarantine, but I think it's important to laugh every now and then because otherwise life just gets too depressing. Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting to come up with my ideal team of 6 Pokemon that I would want with me if I was quarantined in the Pokemon world. I'm gonna go in order from the least important to the most important Pokemon to have during quarantine. Number 6 on my list is Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing is best known for taking pollutants out of the air and freshening the air, making it clean again. This Pokemon would be really useful depending on the type of quarantine. For example, if a virus is airborne and you couldn't open the windows, it would be really nice to have Galarian Weezing to kind of clean up all the different things like from the stove and that kind of stuff. But if a virus isn't airborne, like the coronavirus isn't airborne, Galarian Weezing is slightly less useful. It's also pretty big at almost 10 feet in height, so depending on where you live, like I live in New York City, apartments are tiny, it would be really difficult to have a Galarian Weezing in my apartment. Number 5 is Rotom. Now I went back and forth a lot about what electric type Pokemon to include on this team because I feel like you definitely need an electric type. If you were in quarantine and the power went out, it would be bad news bears. You kind of need all your refrigerated food in order to survive. I mean, you also have canned food, but like there's a lot of food in the refrigerator and freezer that would just die if you lost power. Rotom could definitely fix that problem. Unlike other Pokemon, Rotom doesn't rely on power outlets or actual lightning bolts from the sky, so if the power went out, he'd be totally fine. Plus, Rotom is like the most experienced electric type when it comes to machinery. However, Rotom tends to be pretty mischievous, so if you did have one in quarantine, you'd have to watch your back. This one can get up to a little bit of trouble. But hey, it'll keep quarantine from being boring. For number 4, I knew I needed a water type just because if the drinking supply ever got contaminated with like a virus or something like that, not that that's happening right now, not trying to scare you guys. Like, please don't go panic buying water bottles the way that people are panic buying toilet paper. But yeah, I did a lot of research on water type Pokemon, and apparently in the anime, it shows that humans can drink the water produced by water type Pokemon, and they seem to have pretty much an infinite supply of water that people can actually drink. So any water type really fits the bill here. My ideal water type Pokemon for quarantine would be Vaporeon. The reason that I picked Vaporeon over other water types is that it's not a Pokemon that relies on water in order to survive. Like, you don't have to have an ocean or a clean body of water for it to actually physically live in. Vaporeon can just kind of walk around. It's not like a fish or something. Plus, it kind of looks like a cat a little bit, so it might be nice to hug if you're feeling lonely because you've been isolated from human interaction for multiple weeks consecutively. Number 3 on this list is Meganium. Meganium is one of the best Pokemon to have during quarantine. It can revive dead fruits and vegetables, any sort of plant matter. So if you have fruits or veggies that are a little bit past the due date, like you could have more fresh ones that it could revive and then you could eat them. Meganium also has a calming aroma that just like exudes from its body. So if you're somebody who's freaking out because of the quarantine, Meganium would be your Pokemon. I feel like we're all freaking out a little bit. I really want a Meganium right now. The only downside to Meganium is that it is 6 feet tall, so it is a little bit big, but I mean, it's worth it to have a dinosaur, right? I think so. I may be very biased towards dinosaur Pokemon. Number 2. Now, this Pokemon was really difficult to figure out. I knew that there had to be a grass type Pokemon out there that would actually grow food so that you would have a consistent supply of things to eat. But every time I looked up a grass type Pokemon that I thought, maybe, there were awkward reasons why it would not actually work. Some of them were too big like Tropius, but other ones were really awkward like Cherubi, where you actually eat the tiny little berry that has a face, and I was just like, nah, that seems too much like cannibalism to me. I don't like that. And then I looked up Grottle. So Grottle has these like bush things on its back, and those bushes can actually grow berries and nuts. Granted, it probably needs some sunshine in order to grow those, so if you're in a place that doesn't get a lot of sun, Grottle might not be the perfect Pokemon for you. But for me, my apartment gets like too much sun. Like, it's really warm in here. Plus, Grottle can learn sunny day, so it could always make it sunny if there isn't enough light. I looked into Torterra too, but Torterra is huge. Grottle's kind of like the size of a large dog, so it would work in an apartment or a smaller space. Before I go over the number 1 Pokemon that you'd want to have in quarantine, I just want to do a quick honorable mention to Meltank. Meltank would be pretty useful because it does produce a lot of milk, and it's surprisingly tiny. However, I felt like water was more important than milk, so I decided to go with the water type instead of including Meltank. Okay, on to number 1. Blissey. Blissey can lay multiple eggs a day. Now, if you're in quarantine, it's really difficult to get protein because you can't really have a lot of meat for a long time. Like, it's gonna go bad. And no, we will not be having Pokemon on our team that we will murder and eat. That's just not okay. So for protein, we're gonna use Blissey's eggs. Not only are Blissey's eggs a good source of protein, but according to Pokédex entries, you actually feel happier when you eat one. So for people who are feeling down and lonely, the eggs could kind of like pick you up and make you feel a little bit better. Blissey's hidden ability is also Healer, which can cure an ally's status condition. So if you did get sick from the virus, Blissey might be able to heal you. It's also surprisingly tiny. Like, I always thought Blissey was pretty big, but it's shorter than I am, so that wouldn't be an issue either. So those are my extremely practical Pokemon that I would want to survive quarantine. Which Pokemon would be on your quarantine team? Make sure you let me know in the comments. I post Pokemon videos on Fridays, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them. Bye!